Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.
It's Tuesday, June 7th. This is The Gateway. I'm Wayne Pratt. Bison meat is lean, but the animals are hard to raise. That's why some producers are raising beefalo, a hybrid of buffalo and cattle.
When they created beefalo, they bred out the meanness but kept the leanness.
The specialty meat has health benefits and supporters love the taste, but it's difficult to get onto people's plates. St. Louis Public Radio's Jonathan Ahl has that story in just a few minutes. St. Louis and St. Louis County health officials are again recommending residents wear masks in public to protect themselves against coronavirus. St. Louis Public Radio's Sarah Fenton reports the announcements come as cases and hospitalizations are increasing throughout the region.
City and county officials say people should wear masks indoors and outdoors in crowded spaces. That's even for people who've received the COVID-19 vaccine. The Centers for Disease Control has determined that the virus is spreading at high rates in St. Louis and St. Louis County. The agency takes hospitalizations, cases, and transmission rates into account. The CDC recommends masking once communities move into that category. Hospitals in the St. Louis Metropolitan Pandemic Task Force are on average admitting around 40 new patients with COVID-19 each day. 1,300 new cases are being reported in the region each day, according to the New York Times. I'm Sarah Fenton, St. Louis Public Radio.
There are growing calls for the resignation of St. Louis Board of Aldermen President Lewis Reed. He has been indicted on bribery charges. The Post-Dispatch reports at least 10 of the 25 aldermen are calling for Reed to step down. He first became board president in 2017. The newspaper reports there is no indication that Reed is planning to immediately resign. His office says he is working on a plan to shift some authority to the Board of Aldermen vice president. That is Joe Vollmer, who has stated Reed will likely take a leave of absence. St. Louis is turning off electric scooters downtown and in the downtown west area. The move follows a request by public safety officials who are concerned about teens coming downtown on the weekends. Public Safety Director Dan Isom says some of those gatherings have led to shootings. Parents drop off teens who ride the scooters throughout downtown and downtown west. Isom says scooter companies have agreed to shut off the vehicles indefinitely. He adds city police officers are too busy to monitor scooter use. Missouri's Senate president is touting his work on transportation issues as he vies for the state's open U.S. Senate seat. Dave Schatz is one of many candidates running for the spot. St. Louis Public Radio's Sarah Kellogg reports.
Schatz says by working firsthand with current Senator Roy Blunt, he knows how important it is to have someone in Washington, D.C. advocating for transportation funding. Now, as Blunt is stepping down and Schatz is running to take his seat, he says his passion for transportation funding would continue, albeit on a larger scale.
Infrastructure is one of the core functions that the federal government should be engaged in.
Schatz also defended the passage of a gas tax increase that the state legislature approved last year, saying he could not have left the Missouri Senate in good faith without funding the state's transportation needs. Missouri's August 2nd primary, where the crowded field has more than a dozen candidates, is less than 2 months away. In Jefferson City, I'm Sarah Kellogg, St. Louis Public Radio.
Schatz made the comments on Politically Speaking. That episode is at stlpr.org. The U.S. Supreme Court will not hear an appeal by a St. Louis couple who waved guns at Black Lives Matter protesters outside their home 2 years ago. The High Court declined to review the Missouri Supreme Court's discipline of Mark and Patricia McCloskey. The court suspended their law licenses indefinitely, but eventually put those suspensions on hold and placed them on probation for a year. Governor Mike Parson pardoned the couple after they pleaded guilty to misdemeanors. Mark McCloskey is a Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate in Missouri. Bison were hunted to near extinction at the same time as the European cow was brought to the Americas. Cattle quickly became the most dominant meat to be eaten. But as St. Louis Public Radio's Jonathan Ahl reports, combining those two breeds into something better is a niche market that some hope becomes more widespread.
The farmers market in Rolla is pretty typical of those in the area. You can buy beef, pork, eggs, vegetables, and baked goods that are grown and made nearby. But one stand sells something different, beefalo. Shopper Vicky Gustavson is a fan.
It's a bit leaner, so I think it's more healthy for us. Tastes good. We sometimes cook it in the crock pot, a roast, and it comes up nice and tender every time.
Beefalo is exactly what it sounds like, part beef, part buffalo. And the meat available at the Rolla Farmers Market comes from the farm of Andrew and Kelly Deach. About 25 female beefalo, most with a calf nearby, are grazing on the 650-acre A&K Ranch in south central Missouri near Raymondville. They look a lot like regular cows, but their hair is a little longer and they look a touch bigger in the shoulders. Kelly Deach says these animals combine the best of both worlds.
And as we like to say, when they created beefalo, they bred out the meanness but kept the leanness of the bison, so kept the good qualities of the bison.
And beefalo were definitely created. While there was some unintentional crossbreeding when European cows got into buffalo herds in the 17th and 18th centuries, it wasn't until the 1970s that a reliable, fertile crossbreed was produced. The intent was to get the lean meat of bison into an animal that could be raised as easily as a cow. And the magic number of 37.5% bison was found. Andrew Deach used to raise cattle, but finds the beefalo much easier and more enjoyable.
I mean, they all have different personalities, and you can tell them apart because of their colors and such like. But when you have a field of Angus out there, it's hard to tell. I just like doing the beefalo because they're a lot easier to work with.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture certified beefalo as having higher vitamin levels, nearly a third less cholesterol, and 79% less fat than conventional beef. John Fowler raises beefalo in northern Missouri and is on the board of the American Beefalo Association. He says it's a superior animal. The biggest hurdle, getting ranchers to start raising them.
If I can get a person who has a crossbred herd and put a beefalo bull in his herd and then him eat some of the meat, he's sold. He'll want to produce the beefalo.
But beefalo does have its opponents.
We just don't really think that there should be beefalo.
Martha McFarland works for the advocacy group Practical Farmers of Iowa. She also raises cattle and bison, but would never mix the two. She says nature did just fine producing bison, an excellent animal that's also good to eat. But she does empathize with beefalo producers. As a bison and specialty beef producer herself, she knows trying to sell a niche meat is difficult.
A lot of times it's hard to find that middleman to get my meat into the grocery store. I'm not part of this huge mechanized system. My challenge is your average consumer wants to just go to the grocery store and pick up some food and be done with it.
Beefalo isn't in many grocery stores, and it's primarily sold online or at farmers markets. It also costs more than beef, largely because it comes from small producers. But breeders like Andrew Deach are still optimistic about the future of the specialty meat. He credits new leadership at the American Beefalo Association.
They've got some new people in there who have really good ideas, and they're reaching out there. They have a Facebook page, and you can find beefalo all over the country.
Deach says while he and his wife enjoy selling their product at 3 farmers markets, they're really excited by the prospect of getting more ranchers interested in beefalo. In Rolla, I'm Jonathan Ahl, St. Louis Public Radio.
You can see pictures of beefalo on our website, stlpr.org. That story was produced in partnership with Harvest Public Media, a collaboration of public media newsrooms reporting on agriculture and rural issues. Shula Newman is the executive editor of St. Louis Public Radio, a listener-supported service of the University of Missouri-St. Louis. Music by Ryan McNeely of Adult Fur. I'm Wayne Pratt. This has been The Gateway.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.